2015 has seen some great tech launches. So let's not waste any time. This is GCN's review of the biggest and most important of the year. First up, SRAM Red eTap. Now, in our minds, this was the biggest release of the year. Wireless shifting, dragging bike derailleurs into the 21st century. Now, SRAM clearly thought long and hard about the next stage of development for their Red group set. And you can tell, because when riding it, this feels like a very polished and refined product. Aside from the wireless bit, perhaps the biggest news was that SRAM are changing the way we shift gears. Since the dawn of time, each hand has controlled a different derailleur until now. Now, your left hand shifts into an easier gear on your cassette, and your right hand shifts into a harder gear. To engage your front derailleur, you press both levers at the same time. Very simple and very intuitive. This year was a bumper year for aero bikes. Strangely so, in fact, actually, because Scott, Specialized and Trek all released new, and in some cases extreme-looking aero bikes. Now, of the three, the Scott Foil is perhaps the most normal and, dare we say it, versatile of the three, with the other two focusing on proprietary integrated components in order to refine their products even further. Now, you might not think that you're fast enough to warrant an aero bike, but all three of these will actually make you faster out on the road. Unless, of course, your average speed is 4 miles per hour or less, in which case rolling resistance, interestingly, is the governing force. For years, the group set market has been dominated by Shimano, Campagnolo and SRAM. However, at the Tour de France, FSA debuted a prototype, and you couldn't really miss the fact there was a prototype, could you, Lasty? GROUPSET. It's as yet unnamed and as yet has no release date. Now, it's semi-wireless, meaning that the shifters communicate wirelessly with the front derailleur, and then the front and the rear derailleurs are wired together, saving you most of the hassle of a fully wired setup. And we are eagerly awaiting more news of this and perhaps a World Tour debut in 2016. SRAM One Bike has been around on mountain bikes for 3 years now, and while the crossover to cross was evidently going to be popular given the simplicity of the system, I'm not sure all that many people thought about putting it on their road bikes. Until this year, that is, when SRAM released One Bike for the road. Now, getting rid of that front shifter and the front mech just makes everything look very, very clean. And while there is a small amount of compromise to be had on the extreme end of your gear ratios, it's actually much, much smaller than you might think, meaning that for most riders, there actually wouldn't be any compromise to make at all. But then again, if you like the look of it, I'm not entirely sure you'd need convincing of that last point anyway. It's not all been about aero in 2015. Light bikes are still important, and we still want them. Back at the Giro d'Italia, MERIDA upped the ante with their new SCULTURA. It weighs a bonkersly light 680 grams for the frame, making it supposedly the lightest production frame on the market. However, they haven't had it all their own way because disc brakes are becoming increasingly important. So step forward focus with their Izalco Max disc. Supposedly the lightest production disc frame set on the market at just 790 grams for the frame. But perhaps more importantly, it comes in as a complete bike below the UCI weight limit of 6.8 kilos, proving that discs can be competitive and they can be extremely light. We can't ignore the all-road gravel bike sector. There has been loads and loads of innovation going on along here, mainly because I think no one exactly knows what is required. Is it a road bike with bigger tyres? Is it a cross bike with more bosses to increase the versatility? Or in fact, is it something between the two? I suppose the beauty of it is you can decide. Now, of all the innovations, perhaps the OPENCYCLE's new Up takes the crown. Now, you can fit 40mm wide tyres on there, but, and this is their masterstroke, you can also fit 650B mountain bike wheels on there, complete with 2.1-inch wide tyres for incredible versatility. Now, clearly thinking along the same lines, Cannondale also used 650B wheels on their new Slate. But with just 40mm wide tyres, it keeps the diameter of the wheel very, very similar to a 23mm road tyre. So the handling is also very similar to your road bike. Now, whether their lefty suspension fork is an innovation or an abomination, I'll leave that up to you. But I am going to reserve judgment until I've actually ridden one, which I would quite like to do. Innovations in gears don't actually come around all that often. So it's a pretty good year when we have not one, Not 2, not 3, but 4 major releases. Now, Rotor have eschewed cables and electronics and gone for hydraulic for their setup instead. Now, we've not actually seen this in the raw as yet, so we will be very interested to see where it actually fits in the bigger picture. But it's clear that this has been very well thought through and very well executed. While aero bikes have dominated the headlines, and then in fact lightweight bikes have stolen the rest of them, you'd be forgiven for thinking where the rest of the bikes fit in. But Canyon have cleverly bridged the gap between the two with their new Ultimate CF SLX. Now, it's not an out-and-out aero bike, but it is significantly more aerodynamic than other super lightweight bikes. So for the consumer that wants the best of both worlds but can't actually afford them, then surely this is going to be the best type of bike. And in fact, when it gets disc brakes on it as well, it's going to be a quiver killer, an N-1 bike. Now, speaking of disc brakes, yes, of course, they have been around for ages, but 2015 saw a milestone, and that is that they were allowed in World Tour races for the first time ever in August and September. And as of January the 1st, 2016, they will be fully pro cyclist legal. So this should mean that we will see further development of lighter systems, improved integration, increased aerodynamics, and hopefully some kind of industry standard on axles, disc diameters, and mounts. Make sure you let us know what your top tech of 2015 was in the comments section down below, and in fact what you were looking forward to seeing in 2016 as well. Now, if you want a bit more information on that SRAM red eTap, then I actually got to take you for a ride. You can see my first impressions just up there. Or for Lasty having a good look around the FSA prototype group set, well, you can get through to his video just down there. And don't forget as well to subscribe to GCN, because undoubtedly we will be in the right place for all those innovations in 2016.